Hey guys, today for our read aloud, we're going to be reading The Persian Cinderella. And this is by Shirley Climo and the art is by Robert Florczak. And I have been waiting a long time to share this book with you guys. You know how much I love multicultural Cinderella stories. Obviously with Adelita, the rough-faced girl, the smudge-faced girl. With the Korean Cinderella, I absolutely love a fairy tale that we're also familiar with, but we can see other cultures from different places around the world, but still have that same core story. You know I love that. So today we're going to be reading The Persian Cinderella. Let's go ahead and get started. Long ago, when Persia was a land of princes and poets, there lived a maiden named Cinderella. Her name meant star, and it was given her on the day she was born because of a star-shaped mark on her left cheek. Cinderella had scarcely opened her eyes to see or her mouth to cry when her mother had died. Although she lived with her stepmother, 2 stepsisters, 3 aunts, and 4 female cousins in the women's part of the house, she was often lonely. Cinderella seldom saw her father, for he was busy in the world of men. Her stepmother and aunts ignored her, paying no more heed to her than a fly on the wall. She belonged to no one, and nothing belonged to her. She wore her stepsisters' cast-off clothes and ate their leftovers, sometimes finding only melon rinds to fill her dish. Even so, Cinderella grew lovelier with the years. The brows above her dark eyes arched as gracefully as the path of an arrow. Her long black hair gleamed like polished ebony. She was delicate with slender ankles and tiny feet, but her beauty only added to her misery, for it made her stepsisters jealous. Sometimes Layla, the older sister, would pinch Cinderella's cheek and scoff, "That's not a star, it's a dirty spot." Nahid, the second sister, would wrinkle her nose in disgust. "Our little sister must wash in a mud puddle." Then Cinderella would run into the walled garden and scrub her face in the fountain, but she never could rub off the mark. One morning in late winter, Cinderella's father honored the women in the quarters with a visit. "Prince Merdad invites all to the royal palace for Nowruz, the new year," he announced. Opening his money pouch, he gave everyone a large gold coin. "Buy cloth from the bazaar to make new clothes," he told them. As he handed Cinderella her coin, he patted her hand and added, "Choose wisely." Each girl and every woman, no matter her age, covered her head with a cloak so that no stranger might look on her face. Then, like a flock of black birds, the mothers, daughters, sisters, and cousins flew down to the road to the marketplace. The covered street was lined with shops and crowded with animals and people. Goats bleated and donkeys brayed. Merchants hawked pearls down from the waters of the Persian seas, and traders shouted prices for silks bought by camel caravans from faraway China. Carpets woven in jewel-like colors brightened the walls, and the scent of ginger and cinnamon from the Indies and perfumed oils from Egypt hung in the air. Cinderella sniffed something familiar too. Toasted almonds! She turned and saw a peddler stirring a pan of nuts over the brazier. She had not eaten nothing all day, and her mouth watered. Shyly, Cinderella held out her gold coin. Quickly, the peddler snatched it. He gave her a wrapper of warm almonds and a handful of small silver coins in return. Cinderella finished the nuts in 2 mouthfuls and then counted her money. "I can still buy cloth," she said. She pushed through the crowds, anxious to find her family again. But as she hurried, a wrinkled old woman tugged on her cloak and held out a brass bowl. "Spare a coin, young mistress," she begged. Cinderella hesitated. The old lady was shivering. Her robe hung in tatters. "You are more in need of new clothes than I, grandmother," Cinderella said. Opening her fingers, she let most of her coins clatter in the woman's bowl. "Good fortune come to you," the crone said, "and soon." Cinderella smiled and looked down at her remaining coins. "At least I may buy a new sash," she told herself. As she hastened past the pottery stall, Cinderella saw a small jug lying in the dust. It was made of ordinary clay, and a jagged crack ran down the side, but it was glazed with blue and as bright as the sky. Cinderella could not take her eyes from it. "This pot, is it for sale?" she asked the shopkeeper. He peered at her. "It's worth much," she began. Cinderella couldn't resist. She picked up the jug. It felt warm to her touch as something was alive. "This is all I have." She offered him her last 3 coins. "Please." The shopkeeper sold Cinderella the little blue jug. Her stepsisters could not believe what Cinderella had bought with the money. "An old leaky pot," replied Nahid. "Now you'll have nothing to wear for Nowruz," Layla scolded. "That's unlucky. You disgrace us." But I shall not go to Prince Merodad's festival, Cetera retorted. But she feared she had not chosen wisely. Nowruz was only 8 days away. The new year began on the first day of spring. Already the snow that iced the Alborz mountains was melting beneath the midday sun, and the many-colored wildflowers carpeted the hillsides. Inside the women's quarters, everyone was busy measuring and cutting and stitching their new clothes. Cetera was alone in the garden, listening to the call of the turtle dove in the pomegranate tree and holding her little blue jug. I don't care if you are cracked, Cetera rubbed the pot with her finger, but I wish you were filled with jasmine blossoms. The jug began to quiver, and her fingertips tingled. Suddenly the air was sweet with fragrance, and her jar brimmed with white flowers. Magic, she gasped. On the outside, the jug looked as always. On the inside, perhaps, a pari. If the little fairy granted one wish, would it grant another? Please, little jug, Cetera whispered. I'm hungry. A basket of figs and apricots appeared before her. Then she said, little jug, I am cold. And at once she was wrapped in a warm shawl of the softest goat hair. She said, little jug, I'm lonely. The dove flew down from the tree, perched on her shoulder, and cooed in her ear. Cetera did not ask for more, fearing her stepmothers and stepsisters might notice. The pari in the jar was her own secret. The eve of New Year, Cetera watched while the others paraded in their fine new clothes. Layla smirked and smoothed her sea green dress, saying, it is too bad you could not attend Prince Merodad's festival, Cetera. She would rather stay here and talk to her old pot, Nahid said, for she had spied her stepsister whispering to it. Cetera did not answer, but as the gate of the courtyard swung shut behind the others, she picked up her blue jug. Would you kindly give me a gown for Nowruz? She asked. The jug in her hands grew warm and began to jiggle. When it stopped trembling, a dark red silk dress, the color of ripe pomegranate seeds, was spread before her. Beside it lay a golden pendant to hang around her neck, a turquoise bracelet to wear on her wrist. Best of all, there were 2 diamond-studded anklets to sparkle on her ankles. Cetera patted the jug. Thank you, she said. Then she dressed quickly and covered her head with a scarf and said, I am ready to go. One magic moment later, she found herself outside Prince Merodad's palace. Cetera climbed the marble staircase and glanced timidly around the arcade on her right. The handsome youth stared boldly back at her, smiled, and stroked his beard. Cetera clutched her scarf to her face and fled through the arcade on her left. She found herself in a huge hall filled with women. They sat on silk cushions and helped themselves to heaping trays of roast lamb and whitefish, to spiced cucumbers, sweet oranges, and tart rhubarb, and goblets of sherbet cooled with mountain snow. Musicians plucked tunes on lutes and sizers, and cymbals rang as dancers twirled. Magicians juggled flashing knives, and snake charmers from India coaxed cobras from their baskets. Poets rhymed verses, and fortune tellers read the future from their star charts. No one recognized Cetera. She kept her head bent and her star mark hidden. Even Layla and Nahid, dazzled by the finery, believed her to be a princess from some distant land. When the rushlights burned low and the music and the amusements ended, how could time fly so? Cried Cetera, dismayed. She would pay a dear price if her stepmother returned and found her bed empty. Cetera fled from the palace, running through the twisting streets. In her hassle, she did not feel her diamond bangle slip from her ankle. She did not hear it splash into the shallow canal that flowed beside the road. She did not discover her loss until she reached home. All night the anklet lay in the ditch, but in the morning the sun shone on the water and made the diamonds flash. A horse drinking from the dish snorted and reared. Steady, shouted the stable boy, tugging the reins. He fished the anklet from the water. I must show this to my master. Extraordinary, the horse master exclaimed, blinking at the band of diamonds. I must take this to the palace. A tiny treasure, Prince Merodad declared, dangling the bangle from his finger. I must find the one who wore it. How could a man look for a maiden? Asked Merodad's mother, the queen. What do you know of the woman and their ways? She said. She rose. I myself will find the owner of that anklet. The queen ordered the bearers to carry her quartained pelican to every household in the city. In each, she bid the women to put on the bangle. Prince Merodad wishes to meet the maiden who can wear it, she explained. Young and old tried to squeeze into the anklet. They pushed their heels and pulled their toes until their feet were pinched and purple, but not even the thinnest among them could put it on. At last the queen called at the house where Cetere lived. One after another, the stepmother, aunts, cousins failed to force on the anklet. Although Lelia and Nadine cleverly oiled their feet, they could not wiggle their slippery toes through the band. Enough, the queen snapped, and she turned to go. Cetere appeared wearing the red dress, the gold necklace, and the turquoise bracelets. Cetere crossed her arms over her chest, bowed to the queen, and said, "Please allow me, exalted one." Without difficulty, she eased her foot through the diamond bangle. As her stepmother and stepsister stared in disbelief, she lifted the hem of the gown and revealed the matching anklet. "Come," said the queen, "the prince awaits you at the palace." "One moment, if you will," stammered Cetere. She hurried to fetch her little jug from the garden. Layla followed and pinched her arm. "How?" she demanded. "There is a party in my jug. I need only wish." Pulling away, Cetere ran to the queen's palanquin. The queen gave Cetere a mirror so that she might gaze at the prince's reflection without the embarrassment of facing him. Cetere peered into it and caught her breath. She had seen those eyes, that smile, even the beard before. Now he wore a tulip-shaped turban, but this was surely the man that she had glimpsed at No Ruse. Merdad stared back. "Cetere," he exclaimed. "Star!" Cetere had forgotten that he could have seen her image in the looking-glass too. Quickly, she covered her cheek with her hand. "No," Prince Merdad pulled her fingers away. "Your mark is heaven-sent. The stars foretell that we shall marry." Cetere knelt and touched her head to the ground. Then she looked up at him and said, "You honor me." The queen summoned Cetere's father to arrange the marriage. For 39 days, the entire kingdom celebrated. Cetere invited her stepsisters to join the festivities in the palace, but even that did not please them. They grew more jealous and vengeful with each passing day. On the 40th morning, Layla grumbled, "Today is Aga, the wedding ceremony. Cetere will become a princess." "Why not me?" Nahid threw a cushion at the palace cat. "Why not you?" "Perhaps," Layla murmured, "if Cetere were gone." "Then the party would help us," Nahid squealed. The sisters looked at each other and giggled. "Why not?" While Cetere strolled with the queen in the palace garden, her stepsister slipped into her room, pried open her chest, and snatched the little blue jug. Layla held up. "Listen," she ordered. "We want Cetere gone forever. Give us a way to be rid of her." The little blue jug shuddered. It grew so hot that smoke seeped through its crack. "Help!" Layla screamed, dropping it. The jug shattered and scattered among the bits of blue clay and gleamed 6 jeweled hairpins. "Ah!" Nadine said, picking them up. "Special pins for our special sister." That afternoon, the stepsisters smilingly offered to arrange Cetere's hair for the ceremony. First, they washed it and scented it with rose water, and then they brushed it until it shone. "Married women must pin up their hair," advised Layla. She coiled Cetere's hair at the nape of her neck and pushed it in with one of the pins. "Ouch!" said Cetere. "Oh, clumsy of me," Layla said. "Let me try again." She thrust another pin into Cetere's hair, and another and another. "Please," Cetere began, but her voice grew weak. 5, 6, Nahid jabbed in the last of the hairpins. "Done." With those words, Cetere vanished. In her place trembled a small gray turtle dove. It cooed mournfully and flew out of the palace window. My goodness. "Where is my star?" Prince Mayhead demanded. "I cannot find her." "Cetere has flown," Layla giggled, "but we are here." Nahid smiled and said sweetly, "Why not choose one of us?" "No one can ever take her place," cried the prince. He ordered searches throughout all of Persia, offering rewards for her return, but Cetere was nowhere to be found. "I," Prince Merdad moaned, plucking hairs from his beard in anguish. He shut himself within his royal chamber and saw no one, not even the queen. He refused the delicious dishes brought to him and grew thin and pale. His only companion was a turtle dove that often came to his window. The bird was shy, but the prince was patient. After many months, it let him stroke its head. Beneath the bird's feather, the prince felt hard bumps. "Hairpins!" the prince exclaimed. "How strange!" He gently pulled one out. "I shall not try and hurt you, small friend." The turtle dove sat quietly while he drew out 4 more hairpins. As he removed the 6th one, the bird fluttered and gave a cry. Prince Merdad cradled it in his arms and then discovered it was not a dove he held. Cetere, withdrawing the last pin, had broken the spell. At the wedding ceremony, Prince Merdad and Princess Cetere sat on a gilded couch as 1,000 matched pearls were showered upon them. Layla and Nahid watched with bulging eyes. Their cheeks burned with jealousy. They puffed up, sputtering with spite, until they were so filled with rage that their hearts simply burst. That was the end of them and their spite. But it was just the beginning of happiness for Cetera, the Persian Cinderella. What a fun read. What I want you to do for a fun activity, if you would like, is create a Venn diagram comparing the Persian Cinderella to another version of Cinderella that we've read. You could do the traditional Cinderella, you could do the rough-faced girl, the Korean Cinderella, or Adelita, and compare what is the same and what is different, what just happened in the Persian Cinderella and what just happened in the other story that you choose. That would be an awesome activity to practice those compare and contrasting skills. All right, I will see you guys in the next read aloud. Love you. Bye.